Okay. This Bible is the same. This is Anna's, I believe, and this is mine. Now Jana has the same as mine. We haven't found any differences in the text, so we think it's actually the exact same multilingual Bible. The advantage of multilingual is, it encapsulates that our families are bilingual. We read this every day. We each have a copy. We read it together in Spanish and English. That sets the tone. I mean, your family is fully bilingual, so this is not something you're establishing. It's something that you and your husband established, beautifully together. But it is an idea in learning a language. I'm not the best at learning languages, not since Lyme disease, so that's unfortunate. But we just do very simple, let's read a verse or two verses together, and we each read it in Spanish and English. I do not make the kids read nearly as much, so they don't. Usually only one of them will read in Spanish on a day, and they'll follow along. I always have Jana read in both languages so that they hear the proper pronunciation. I practice the pronunciation. We talk about different issues with languages. It really draws attention to text to see it in two languages and to say, well, why is that one translated that way? Why is it translated this way? What might be going on in the original language? You could get that, I guess, from multiple English translations, but you have to understand that the English translations are all made with reference to one another. So they're not actually going to clarify differences in the text except for occasionally. Whereas Spanish is a completely separate translation, so you're going to see a lot of actual translation differences going back and forth between Spanish and English. I imagine that you encounter that if you use a Spanish Bible. But as far as it being, a family Bible, you're going to always have much smaller text. So this is smaller even than the NASB Study Bible because, again, you have this much more, and it's honestly more compact as well than the Study Bible. So it's actually thinner even though it has double the text in it. I think that this one lays open pretty good, but just notice the difference between this binding and an actual sewn binding. You cannot lay this out. It is way too tight. If you can see, it does have some kind of stitching in it, but my guess is that it is glued binding with stitching. There's nothing on here that says that it's stitched. At least I didn't notice it. I was reading it quickly. Of course, my Spanish reading is pretty good, but when I'm scanning something fast, I'm not going to see everything. It is leather soft, and I want to show why leather soft, though it sounds good, is really more of a sales point. Than it is an option to have leather instead. So look right here. This Bible has not been dropped or thrown in backpacks or anything. It's held carefully when we read together as a family, and it's just opened and closed, and you can see that this is just breaking down. Versus, if we come back to the other one, this is not going to have that kind of wear. You can get scratch marks, but you can get scratch marks on this. So leather soft. Notice the crease here. There we go. You can see with the light. Crease. Now here is what it looks like when it's newer. Anna's Bible is much newer. See how the page, yes, I can bend it. It has some flexibility, but that is very different. And you can already see, like, this is glued on, and the creases are forming. You open, the page can't lay. You see how it pulls the page. So you're going to have, now this one can lay open, kind of, but look, it wants to just bounce up. It like actually bounces closed. You can see here, like, it doesn't even lay flat when it's opened. Now I can pull it open, and it does okay. Unfortunately, this is the main option. They moved the English to the top in 2 columns. The Spanish to the top in 2 columns and the English to the bottom in 2 columns. I do not like this format at all. It is very negative for reading versus in the column one that I have and that Jana has. It's very easy. I can read a verse here, and then here's the same verse. So my kids have a lot more trouble following along. They also updated, it's the updated version of both the Spanish and the English, which is confusing and is very frustrating with the reading. Sometimes for the kids, because of where their Spanish is at, they like it better because maybe it drops a word and there's less to read. But then also it's not as easy because they didn't just hear us read the exact same thing that they're reading. So for the practice, it's a little more difficult. I would not have bought these, and it's the only one that I see offered now, and I would not have bought them. I'm very disappointed. I think these are about $50 a piece, so it's pretty high value for a children's Bible, but we value the Spanish and English, and it does give us that, even though I don't like it as much as what I had, and what I actually wanted to get them was the same thing. So unfortunate differences. They did add 2 marking spots, which can be really nice. If you have a family reading, you could mark where your family's reading together, and then if you had a personal reading, you can mark. So it could be a good coordination Bible for your family. It is for us. When we read together as a family, we always use Spanish and English, and then I find it really introduces a lot of good conversation that is not study Bible or super Christian commentary-based discussions. It's not books about the Bible. It is, both of them are translations that have a really good desire. They want to preserve the text. And so the differences become pretty positive for talking about what's going on. I suppose people could do that with English, but you want to have a commonality and then a distinction to further talking. I would probably not. One of the problems with bilingual Bibles is that they are, in the mind of the publisher, they are functional. So that's what they're going for. They are going for offering a functionality. They're not going for offering a long-term legacy. So it's very difficult to find a bilingual Bible that is in genuine leather with a sewn binding, with, good quality paper. You can see the bleed through the pages. You can see the white is very shiny. For public reading where you can't get your lighting right, the cream is just going to be so much better. It's so much less reflective. Real thin pages are likely to tear or get creased versus up here I've got my nicer Bible. You can turn the pages thoughtfully and have no risk of tearing or something, whereas this Bible, even being thoughtful, you could damage a page, especially as a child. I think kids probably shouldn't be handling a family Bible very often, so that might not be such an issue. But once a page is torn, it's torn, so a higher quality paper up front minimizes that. Of course, then there's a greater risk if it happens. You have a damaged, very expensive Bible. All right, so that's enough. So this is leather soft. This is why I do not suggest leather soft for any kind of legacy thing. This Bible is maybe 5 years old. It has been used. It has been taken to church. This is the one I would bring, to a church service in Costa Rica so that I could practice my language, but it was not heavily or abusively used, and it already is showing serious wear. I don't know that I've ever dropped this Bible. You notice that because I open it here, it has a permanent bend. I think that's really unfortunate that it can't lay flat.